Inflammation is no longer just a symptom, it's now recognized as a central engine in the development of chronic disease. Whether it's heart disease, diabetes, cognitive decline, or even cancer, persistent low-grade inflammation is often simmering in the background, quietly degrading tissues, damaging cells, and accelerating aging. We tend to blame processed foods, sugar, trans fats, and environmental toxins for lighting this fire, and rightly so. But in a strange and underappreciated twist, some of the same nutrients we take to fight inflammation may, when consumed in excess, actually fuel it. It's a nutritional paradox. The body needs certain vitamins and minerals to regulate inflammation, but overwhelm those pathways and they can flip, shifting from healing agents to irritants. And when this happens, it leaves behind a biochemical footprint, one that shows up in elevated levels of inflammatory biomarkers such as VCM1, CRP, C-reactive protein, and IL-6, interleukin-6. Let's start with VCM1, or vascular cell adhesion molecule 1. This protein is like molecular Velcro on the inner walls of your blood vessels. When VCM1 levels are high, it means your vascular endothelium is in distress, actively recruiting immune cells to stick to its surface, which is one of the early steps in atherosclerosis. Normally, VCM1 is tightly regulated, flaring up in response to acute injury or infection. But some studies have found that high doses of niacin, often taken for cholesterol management, can promote VCM1 expression via inflammatory intermediates like 4-PY, particularly in the endothelium. The result, a vitamin meant to protect your heart may end up sending out inflammation signals to the immune system, subtly encouraging plaque formation. Then there's CRP, a well-established marker of systemic inflammation. It's often used clinically to assess cardiovascular risk and to monitor chronic diseases. While CRP levels can certainly rise in response to a poor diet or infection, they've also been found to spike in individuals taking megadoses of synthetic vitamins, especially fat-soluble ones like vitamin E or A, or high-dose B6 and B3. The mechanism isn't always direct. In many cases, it stems from oxidative stress or liver overload, which then triggers systemic immune activation. What's more alarming is that people who are already vulnerable, such as those with metabolic syndrome, autoimmune disease, or the elderly, appear to be more reactive to these nutrient excesses, experiencing stronger inflammatory responses from doses that may seem benign to others. IL-6, another key player, is a pro-inflammatory cytokine involved in everything from fever to chronic fatigue to arterial stiffness. It rises with acute infections but also in response to chronic metabolic irritation. Certain micronutrients, particularly when taken in isolation and at unnatural concentrations, have been shown to disturb immune balance and trigger IL-6 release. For example, excess folic acid, the synthetic form of folate found in fortified foods and many supplements, can accumulate in unmetabolized form and interact with immune signaling in ways that may drive IL-6 expression, particularly in people with impaired methylation capacity or MTHFR gene variants. These aren't just statistical blips or lab curiosities. Inflammatory biomarkers are active participants in disease development. When VCM1 is up, you're more likely to form plaques. When CRP rises, your arteries become less responsive. When IL-6 floods the system, insulin resistance increases, mood declines, and cardiovascular risk escalates. And unlike overt toxicity, like liver failure from vitamin A overdose, these biomarker shifts can persist for years without symptoms, quietly driving degeneration in the background while the multivitamin bottle on your shelf continues to promise health. The problem here isn't vitamins per se. The body needs them, desperately. But the line between adequacy and excess is thin, and modern diets blur it even further. Today's food supply is already saturated with enriched grains, fortified snacks, and vitamin-boosted drinks. Add a daily multivitamin, a pre-workout mix, or a longevity stack, and you may be layering nutrients to levels that the body perceives as biochemical stress. Especially for people with low-grade inflammation already simmering, older adults, people with obesity, or chronic conditions, this excess can become the tipping point. This also dismantles the old myth that if a little is good, more must be better. That logic might apply to water or sleep, but not to nutrients with defined metabolic thresholds and toxic spillovers. The immune system is exquisitely sensitive to chemical cues. Nutrients can modulate inflammation when dosed correctly, But when they flood the system in unnatural quantities, they can send mixed signals, sparking the very fire they were meant to extinguish. In the end, this isn't about blaming supplements across the board. It's about respect for dosage, for biochemical individuality, and for the body's finely tuned regulatory systems. Inflammation is not just something you get from donuts and diesel fumes. You can stir it up with good intentions and a handful of well-meaning pills, especially when they outpace your body's capacity to metabolize them safely. So, before we chase health by megadosing supernutrients, we'd be wise to remember that balance is biology's favorite language. And the quiet elevation of CRP or VCM, one might just be the body's way of whispering, too much of a good thing still burns.